When I started in my career, I worked in investment banking. Everybody used a phone. I got put in a back room. The last conversation about high-frequency trading is quite pertinent. I got stuck in a room in the late 90s with a bunch of computers told to figure out high-frequency trading because the Americans were doing high-frequency trading and we need to do it in London. You can't, relatively speaking, you can't have more experience than I have in high-frequency trading in Europe because it didn't exist until the year that I started, and I was first year out of college. Now we have an emerging technology at the moment that is this distributed ledger blockchain technology, which no one understands in any sense, which is a huge opportunity for everybody in the room, because you cannot have, relatively speaking, more than a year or two's experience. You have a significant number of changes. So I think it was 2 presentations back talking about timing and how you take your opportunities. I think when we look now at timing, there's a significant change going on in terms of who participates in financial services. So another question. WeChat, the messaging application, offers investment management services. How many customers do they have? And they're 18 months old. It's interesting. So Barclays, in 325 years, they've added 15 million savings accounts. WeChat last year added 10 million. This year, they've done 15. A messaging application has 25 million savings accounts and 16 billion in AUM in 18 months. And in 325 years, Barclays did 15. This is what's happening at the moment. It's really interesting to be in this building where there's all this history, and it's fantastic to be part of it. But the established institutions and the emerging world are being disrupted in a way that it's hard to get your head around. I mean, 25 million savings accounts. The future of financial services, and today, we've got to focus on capital markets. What do digital capital markets mean? What do digital assets mean? There's a really good reference point. Anybody know who Blythe Masters is? Blythe's the most powerful woman on Wall Street, a fantastic role model for any women in this industry. Blythe was CFO of JP Morgan. I worked at JP Morgan. She's an incredible operator. So one of, if not the most senior operators in capital markets, left that part of the world and is now in that part of the world working at Digital Asset Holdings, which is a blockchain company looking at the use of distributed ledger for asset trading. So why on earth would somebody do that? Well, here, I think, is a tremendous opportunity for anybody in the room. You guys are born digital. So I didn't have a cell phone till I left college. You guys are born digital. There are certain behaviors, certain thought processes that I'm mid-generation, later generation just aren't going to understand. Also, the ability to interface with emerging technology. So we are going to be sat on a digital asset platform on a 5 to 10 year view. It's my view. I think Blythe has the same view. So we look at where's that going to be and who's going to be doing the innovation. Earlier today, Barclays announced they've launched their new accelerator with Techstars. That's in Midtown. And they indicated that the growth of market cap of new fintech companies that have started in the last 3 years has outstripped the market cap of Barclays. I mean, there are some big lumps in there, like Lending Club and what have you. But where do these come from? And who understands them? And who can interface with the emerging technologies? Because they don't have access. So, job number one, you don't have to ask these days. You don't necessarily have to have somebody in your family to get them through the front door. As a reference of a background, I come from a very humble background. I had an engineering degree, but I found a way to go into something that nobody understood. I'd say, timing-wise, no one understands digital assets. I'm struggling with it. I've been doing it 20 years. I've got an engineering degree. I ran high-frequency trading. I've done a lot of things. It's very difficult. Your ability now to understand digital assets sets you apart. Using that knowledge, if you went, for instance, if you rang up a bank and said, look, I really understand blockchain, I understand Bitcoin, I've been to these talks, and I think it's very interesting for OTC markets, because OTC markets don't have a register of securities, and there aren't enough people doing this. There are more banks that want people and less people doing it. That's the opportunity, because they don't have access to the technology. The technology isn't in the bank. It's being innovated outside of the bank. If I was undergrad at the moment, I'd be going to hackathons, I'd be going to meetups. I went to a hackathon in Toronto. In 48 hours, somebody built an end-to-end trading application for digital assets that historically would have taken 2 years. I think it's tremendous, the innovation that's going on. The linking is what's important. The thought process that I'd like to encourage is the ability to find a link between emerging technologies and established institutions. For blockchain technologies and distributed ledger, there are, as of last week in a think tank, we came up with 91 separate use cases for capital markets. The way that I would look at this is you've got to break it down and establish a knowledge base, and then work with the groups of innovators, and then move to find ways to interact with industry, and they're all there. So, for instance, the Barclays Incubation Lab, you could just walk through the door today. From any day from now on, you could walk through the door and register and say, look, I'm interested in this, and I'd like to contribute. And I think what you're going to see is the decentralization of both operating businesses and of technology platforms. So platforms and access to industry are changing significantly. If we look at every major capital markets firm that's had centralization of power and centralization of technology, this will be changing on a 5 to 10 year basis. It's working out the path forward that's key. And you have timing-wise, the generation that comes out, blockchain Bitcoin was released, Satoshi Nakamoto did his computer code release in 2008. You can mark the movement of senior Wall Street leadership into this technology through 2014-15. If you're graduating in the next few years, this is absolutely a topic where you can be a subject matter expert and a leader because there isn't a history. Thank you very much.